Ethan Vale adjusted his helmet as he floated outside the station's maintenance bay, his gloved hands gripping the metal struts with practiced ease. The Zephyria orbital station was alive with activity today, and the hum of distant engines and chatter through comm channels created a rhythm he had come to find comforting. Humans had only recently established a permanent foothold here, in a system dominated by alien species, and Ethan prided himself on being one of the engineers keeping everything running. It was monotonous work at times, but he loved the feeling of being needed, of holding the station together with his own two hands. As he maneuvered along the outer hull, inspecting the conduits for a reported energy fluctuation, something unusual caught his eye. Nestled in the shadow of a structural strut was a small, shimmering object, almost imperceptible against the silver panels. He paused, floating closer, curiosity immediately piqued. The object was rectangular, about the size of a human palm, with a surface that seemed to ripple like liquid crystal. Strange symbols danced faintly across it, shifting as if alive. Ethan's fingers brushed against it, and a faint warmth ran through his gloves. A soft hum filled his ears, resonating with the vibrations of the station. He frowned, puzzled. He had seen devices from a dozen alien species in his time here, but nothing like this. It didn't match anything in the station's registry. "What are you?" he murmured, turning it over in his hands. The symbols shimmered again, rearranging themselves as if responding to his voice. He laughed softly. "You're not just a piece of junk, are you?" Without thinking, he tapped the surface. The moment his fingers made contact, light poured from the device, forming words in a language he somehow understood. They were fluid, like music made of letters. A title appeared first, Lyra's journal. He blinked. A diary on an alien device? He hesitated. He knew he probably shouldn't open something personal, especially from an alien, but his curiosity overpowered his caution. As he touched the symbols, the words flowed into his mind directly. It was as though the diary knew how to speak to him. And then he read the first line. "I dream of a bridge that can join two worlds. Humans are part of it, even if they do not know it yet." Ethan froze. Humans here in Zephyria were new, and the idea that someone somewhere was thinking about humans as part of something bigger fascinated him. He read on. The diary belonged to Lyra, a teenage girl from Aloria, a planet known for its crystalline cities and intelligent flora. The entries revealed a world unlike any Ethan had ever seen. Towers of pure crystal reflected sunlight in dazzling patterns, and vast gardens of sentient plants whispered secrets to those who would listen. Her people were advanced, cautious, and often dismissive of humans, seeing them as primitive. Yet Lyra, despite her youth, dreamed of something more. Collaboration, connection, exploration. Ethan found himself drawn deeper into her thoughts. Her words painted pictures of experiments she had conducted in secret, of failures and triumphs. She wrote about her frustration with the rigid structure of Alorian society, how they valued tradition over innovation, and how she longed to create something that could unite her people with humans. Her dream was audacious, a quantum interlink bridge capable of syncing human and Alorian technology instantly. Ethan's heart raced. It was an impossible project, at least by human standards, yet Lyra described it with such clarity, such belief, that he couldn't help but be inspired. He read entry after entry, each one more personal than the last. She wrote about her parents, her friends, her secret experiments in hidden labs. She spoke of loneliness, of the fear of failure, and of a burning hope that one day, someone would understand. Hours passed as he floated, reading, absorbing her life in a way that felt almost intrusive but impossible to stop. He felt a strange connection to her, as if their minds had touched across the void of space. Her dreams became his dreams, and her hopes whispered to him in ways he couldn't ignore. But with every line, unease grew. He realized the diary was not just a passive record. It was semi-sentient, responding to his thoughts and presence. Somehow it knew when he hesitated, when he doubted, when he felt excitement, and it was recording everything he did. Ethan tried to put the diary away to return to his normal routine, but he found himself constantly checking it, reading again and again. Each time he discovered new details, sketches of impossible machines, mathematical formulas that bent logic, and vivid descriptions of Alorian technology that humans could barely comprehend. One entry made him stop in his tracks. It was dated just a few days ago. If a human ever reads this, I hope they can see what I see. I hope they can try. I do not have the courage to leave my world alone. Perhaps they will succeed where I cannot. Ethan's mind spun. Could it be possible? Was Lyra somehow reaching out to him across space, asking for help? The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. He knew he should tell someone, return the diary to its rightful owner, but the temptation was too strong. He had the skills, the knowledge, and the resources to attempt something extraordinary. And besides, reading her diary had awakened a fire inside him, a desire to create, to prove that humans were capable of more than the galaxy often gave them credit for. Ethan returned to the maintenance bay, carefully stowing the diary in his personal locker. He sat at a workstation, surrounded by tools and half-assembled devices, and began studying the sketches and formulas. His fingers flew over the controls as he tried to understand Lyra's vision. Every line of her writing was a clue, every diagram a puzzle piece. Days passed. Ethan barely slept, consumed by the diary and the dream it described. He experimented in secret, using station resources to test ideas, build prototypes, and simulate possibilities. He combined human engineering ingenuity with the hints of Elorian technology he gleaned from Lyra's entries. Sometimes he spoke aloud, imagining her responses as if she were there guiding him. He discovered that the diary's semi-sentient nature allowed it to interact with him in subtle ways. When he struggled with the design, the symbols would shift, highlighting possible solutions. When he doubted himself, the diary seemed to pulse reassuringly, as though whispering encouragement. It became a silent partner, a collaborator beyond anything he had ever known. But Ethan was not naive. He understood that tampering with alien technology could have consequences. The Elorians were precise, cautious, and unyielding. Any sign of interference could draw scrutiny, and he risked more than embarrassment. He could face imprisonment or worse. Yet each day the urge to try grew stronger, fueled by the dream of achievement and the quiet presence of Lyra's thoughts guiding him. One evening, while the station orbited a vibrant blue planet, Ethan's experiment produced a faint shimmer of success. A small device he had assembled hummed to life, its energy resonating with a crystalline purity he recognized from Lyra's descriptions. He had created the first functional connection between human circuitry and Elorian energy patterns. It was small, fragile, and rudimentary, but it worked. Ethan leaned back, exhausted and exhilarated. He whispered to the empty room, I think I understand now. I can make this happen." The diary glowed softly in his locker as if acknowledging his words, but the feeling of triumph was short-lived. Across the station, subtle shifts in energy signatures caught the attention of Aelorian security. They were sensitive to the slightest disturbance in their technology, and the semi-sentient diary had alerted them to human interference. Unseen eyes were now watching, analyzing, preparing to intervene. Ethan remained unaware of the looming threat. For him, the universe had narrowed to a single point of focus, Lyra's dream and the possibility that he could make it real. He imagined showing her the prototype, the look of wonder and amazement on her face when she realized a human had not only understood her vision, but brought it to life. Late at night, he floated through the quiet corridors, the diary in his hand, reading aloud fragments of her entries. He laughed softly at her youthful frustrations and marveled at her brilliance. Each passage reminded him of why he had chosen this path, why humans were capable of extraordinary things when they dared to dream. And yet, somewhere in the depths of his mind, a nagging thought persisted. He was playing with forces he barely understood, crossing boundaries between species and worlds that perhaps were not meant to be crossed. But he pushed the thought aside. Dreams, he reminded himself, were meant to be chased. As Part 1 draws to a close, Ethan stands at the observation deck of the station, the stars of Zephyria stretching endlessly before him. He holds the diary close, feeling the pulse of its light, and makes a silent promise. He will turn Lyra's dream into reality. Whatever the cost, he will not let fear stop him. In that moment, a quiet energy fills the room, almost like a voice whispering across the void. Then let us begin. Ethan grips the diary tighter, a smile spreading across his face. He does not yet know the challenges that lie ahead, the dangers he will face, or the extraordinary journey that awaits. But for the first time, he feels truly alive, driven by a purpose larger than himself, connected to a mind from another world, and ready to prove that humans can reach beyond the stars. Ethan Vale barely slept for days after the discovery of Lyra's diary. Every waking moment was spent examining her sketches, analyzing the formulas, and building tiny prototypes that might one day grow into something monumental. The hum of the space station's engines became a background rhythm to his experiments, each vibration echoing like encouragement in his mind. He was no longer just an engineer performing maintenance. He had become a pioneer, bridging two worlds that had never truly met. The first successful test of his rudimentary prototype had left him exhilarated and terrified at the same time. He realized that he was standing on the edge of something unprecedented. Lyra had imagined a bridge between human and Aelorian technology, a fusion so advanced that even the most skilled engineers of her world might have dismissed it as impossible. Yet he had created the first glimmer of that vision. It was fragile and imperfect, but it worked. That small hum of energy that pulsed through the prototype was like a heartbeat, reminding him that possibilities were limitless. But the excitement carried with it the weight of risk. He knew the diary was semi-sentient. It would not remain hidden forever. And with the Aelorian authorities monitoring subtle shifts in their energy patterns, Ethan understood that he had a ticking clock to navigate before anyone discovered his work. Still, he could not stop. Every time he tried, he felt a pull, almost magnetic, toward the diary, toward the dream Lyra had entrusted him with. Ethan decided to expand his experiments. He began creating larger models, combining human circuits with crystalline energy drawn from small samples of Aelorian material he had acquired legally from the station's archives. Each day he worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of his own understanding. Lyra's words in the diary guided him, sometimes explicitly, sometimes through subtle hints in the shifting symbols. Her dream was becoming a blueprint for something extraordinary. At first, the results were chaotic. The energy flowed in ways he had not anticipated, short-circuiting his instruments and occasionally sending sparks across the workstation. But Ethan was undeterred. He analyzed each failure, noting every anomaly, and adjusted his designs accordingly. The diary seemed to respond, pulsing more brightly whenever he found a solution. It was as though Lyra's thoughts had reached across space, lending him her genius in silent collaboration. One evening, while floating in the maintenance bay, Ethan had a breakthrough. He discovered a way to stabilize the energy flow by aligning human circuitry with Aelorian crystalline resonance patterns. It was delicate work, requiring precise timing and careful adjustments. But the moment it worked, the prototype hummed steadily, its energy perfectly balanced. Ethan stared at it in disbelief, feeling a surge of triumph. He had taken a dream written on alien pages and brought it into reality, using nothing but human ingenuity and determination. Despite his success, Ethan was painfully aware of the dangers that loomed. The Aelorian authorities were highly vigilant, and even the slightest anomaly could draw their attention. He knew that if they discovered what he had done, he could face severe consequences. Still, the thought of giving up never crossed his mind. Humans had always been underestimated, often dismissed as primitive or reckless, but he intended to prove otherwise. Days turned into weeks. Ethan worked with single-minded focus, refining his prototype into a more sophisticated device capable of syncing larger human machinery with Aelorian energy patterns. He tested each iteration cautiously, documenting the results in his personal logs. The prototype became more stable, more efficient, and more powerful. He began to imagine what could be achieved if the technology were scaled up. Communication across light years could become instantaneous, and human and Aelorian civilizations could share knowledge and innovation like never before. As he worked, he felt a growing presence in his mind. Lyra's diary had always been semi-sentient, but now it seemed almost alive, responding directly to his thoughts. He could feel her excitement, her encouragement, and even her impatience when progress was slow. Sometimes he imagined hearing her voice, guiding him through complex calculations or suggesting adjustments he had overlooked. It was surreal, but the sense of collaboration drove him forward, giving him strength and clarity he had never known before. However, the growing attention from Aelorian authorities could not be ignored. Subtle shifts in energy flows were detected across the station, and Ethan knew that the semi-sentient diary might have already alerted them. He became more cautious, covering his experiments rerouting energy signals and hiding evidence of his work. He realized that he was walking a fine line between achievement and disaster, but the stakes only made him more determined. One night, while running a particularly complex simulation, Ethan noticed something strange. The prototype began to resonate more strongly than before, creating patterns in the energy that seemed intentional. Symbols formed within the crystalline light, matching some of Lyra's sketches almost perfectly. It was as if the device itself was learning, adapting, guided by the genius embedded within the diary. Ethan's heart raced. This was more than a prototype. It was a living bridge between two worlds, a testament to human innovation guided by alien brilliance. Excitement turned to anxiety as he realized the implications. If the Aelorians discovered the prototype, they might assume that humans had deliberately interfered with their technology. Ethan knew that the consequences could be severe, possibly catastrophic. He considered destroying the device to protect himself, but the thought of giving up after coming this far was unbearable. Lyra's dream was no longer just hers. It had become his, intertwined with his own vision for the future. Ethan continued refining the device in secret, experimenting with new ways to stabilize and amplify the energy flow. He combined human mechanical ingenuity with insights from Lyra's diary, creating a prototype that was more sophisticated than anything either species had attempted before. The device began to demonstrate capabilities that seemed almost miraculous. It could synchronize systems across vast distances, adapt to different energy patterns, and even anticipate the needs of connected technology. One afternoon, as Ethan monitored the prototype, a sudden alert flashed across his console. The station's sensors had detected an anomaly in the energy readings, and a small Aelorian reconnaissance team had been dispatched to investigate. Panic surged through him. He knew that if they found him working on the prototype, the consequences could be dire. He quickly covered the device and tried to mask the energy fluctuations, but his heart pounded with fear. Despite the danger, Ethan refused to give up. He realized that the only way to protect the prototype and ensure Lyra's dream could be realized was to complete the project fully. He worked tirelessly day and night, pushing his skills and creativity to the limit. He knew that human ingenuity, combined with Lyra's vision, was capable of something extraordinary, and he was determined to prove it. During one long session, as he adjusted the prototype's energy alignment, Ethan felt a sudden surge of understanding. He realized how to integrate human circuitry with Aelorian crystalline energy in a way that allowed both systems to communicate seamlessly. It was a revelation, the key to making the bridge fully functional. He implemented the changes carefully, holding his breath as the device powered up. The results were breathtaking. The prototype pulsed with energy, light flowing through it in patterns of incredible beauty. Ethan watched in awe as the device stabilized, creating a link between human and Aelorian technology that had never been seen before. He had done it. He had turned Lyra's dream into reality, even if only in a small, controlled form. For a moment, Ethan allowed himself to celebrate. He felt a sense of triumph and pride, knowing that humans were capable of achieving the impossible when driven by curiosity, determination, and courage. He had crossed the boundaries of knowledge, bridged the gap between species, and created something that could change the course of history. But the celebration was brief. The Aelorian reconnaissance team arrived, their sensors scanning the area. Ethan held his breath, hoping that the semi-sentient diary and his careful masking of the prototype would keep them from discovering the truth. He knew that the moment of discovery was inevitable, and he braced himself for the consequences. To his surprise, the team did not immediately confront him. Instead, one of the Aelorians approached cautiously, its crystalline form reflecting the light of the station. It paused near the prototype, observing the energy patterns with a mixture of curiosity and awe. Ethan realized that they were not here to punish him. They were here to understand. In that moment, Ethan understood something profound. Lyra's dream had not only inspired him, but it had also created a bridge of understanding between species. The Aelorians were witnessing human ingenuity firsthand, seeing that humans were capable of innovation, collaboration, and brilliance. For the first time, he felt that humans were not merely observers in the galaxy, but active participants shaping its future. The reconnaissance team eventually departed, leaving Ethan alone with the prototype and the diary. He exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. He knew that the journey was far from over, but he had taken a critical step forward. Lyra's dream was no longer just a fantasy. It was becoming. As he floated in the maintenance bay, Ethan Vale stood on the observation deck of the Zephyria orbital station, staring at the stars with a sense of both awe and anticipation. The prototype he had built, inspired by Lyra's diary, was now stable and functional. The hum of its energy resonated throughout the maintenance bay, a soft pulsing rhythm that seemed almost alive. After weeks of tireless work, sleepless nights, and constant experimentation, he had done it. The impossible bridge between human and Aelorian technology was no longer just a dream. It was real. And yet a part of him remained uneasy. The semi-sentient diary had already alerted Lyra's people to the experiment. Ethan knew it was only a matter of time before the Aelorians arrived. He had prepared himself for confrontation, for the possibility of punishment or confiscation, but he had not anticipated the most extraordinary moment of his life. The station's sensors detected an incoming ship, a sleek, crystalline vessel unlike anything he had seen before. Its approach was deliberate and precise, and the energy signature confirmed his suspicion. The ship carried Aelorian authorities, but this time he noticed something different. The energy patterns emanating from the vessel were familiar. They resonated with the diary, almost like recognition. Ethan's pulse quickened. The hatch opened and a figure stepped through, a tall, slender being whose body shimmered with crystalline light. Her eyes, a luminous shade of violet, focused immediately on him. In that instant, he knew who it was. Lyra, he whispered, hardly believing it. She stepped forward gracefully, her gaze scanning the maintenance bay and finally resting on the prototype. There was a moment of silence, a tense pause where Ethan feared judgment, reprimand, or anger. But instead of fury, her expression softened into something he could not have predicted. Awe. You did this? She asked, her voice melodic yet carrying authority. You turned my dream into reality? Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of pride and anxiety. I read your diary. I couldn't help it. I wanted to see if your dream could be real. And it worked, I think. At least the prototype is stable now. Lyra approached the device, her hands hovering over its glowing surface. Ethan watched closely, waiting for her reaction. Her eyes widened as she saw the energy pulses, the synchronization of human circuitry and Aelorian crystal energy. She reached out and touched the prototype, and for the first time, Ethan heard her voice, not in words but as a clear, resonant feeling in his mind. It's perfect, she thought. You understood it. You made it better than I imagined. Ethan's chest swelled with emotion. To have a human recognized, praised, and even celebrated by an alien genius was overwhelming. He had always known humans were capable of extraordinary things, but this was proof that their potential could stretch across worlds. But the moment of triumph was not without tension. Behind Lyra, a group of Aelorian officials entered the room, their expressions unreadable. They studied Ethan, the prototype, and Lyra with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The leader stepped forward, a tall figure whose crystalline form shimmered with authority. You have interfered with Aelorian technology, the leader stated, voice calm but firm. Explain yourself, human. Ethan swallowed, steadying his nerves. I didn't mean harm. I read Lyra's diary. She dreamed of a bridge between our species. I wanted to see if it could be real. I worked carefully using human engineering, and I think I succeeded. There was silence as the Aelorians considered his words. Ethan held his breath, aware that a single misstep could mean the end of everything he had worked for. Then, unexpectedly, Lyra stepped forward. He is not a threat, she said, her voice carrying authority. He is the one who turned my vision into reality. He understood the dream. He helped it exist. The officials exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves. Ethan watched anxiously, unsure if his fate was secure. Then, the leader nodded slowly. Very well, the Aelorian said. You may continue, human, but under our supervision. Your ingenuity is remarkable, and it has produced results we did not expect. Relief flooded Ethan, mingled with exhilaration. He had not only survived the confrontation, but he had earned recognition from one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Lyra smiled at him, a warm, approving expression that sent a thrill through his entire body. Together, They worked to expand the prototype. Lyra guided Ethan through the more complex aspects of Aelorian technology, showing him how to integrate it seamlessly with human systems. The collaboration was extraordinary. Ethan's practical, inventive human mind complemented Lyra's genius and creativity, producing results neither could achieve alone. Over the next few days, they scaled up the prototype. The device grew in size and complexity, glowing with an energy that felt alive, almost sentient. Ethan watched in awe as human machines began to communicate with Aelorian crystal networks, exchanging information at speeds faster than light. The possibilities were limitless. Instant communication across galaxies, joint research projects, shared exploration of uncharted worlds, and innovations that could transform both civilizations. As they worked, Ethan reflected on how far humans had come. On Earth, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as fragile and limited. But here, in the vast expanse of space, humans had proven themselves capable of ingenuity, courage, and brilliance. He felt a surge of pride not just for himself but for humanity as a whole. Lyra noticed his expression. "You are proud," she said, her voice gentle, almost teasing. "I am," Ethan admitted. "Not just for me, for humans. For what we can do when we try, when we believe we can achieve the impossible." Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "Then you understand why I dreamed this dream. I wanted someone who could see it, who could make it real. You are that human." The device hummed steadily, glowing brighter as they connected it to larger systems on the station. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, watching as the prototype synchronized with human and Aelorian technology alike. It was a living bridge, a symbol of cooperation, intelligence, and shared vision. But their triumph was not just technological. It was emotional, a bond forged across species, experience, and distance. Ethan felt a connection with Lyra unlike anything he had ever known, a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. They had created something beautiful together, something that transcended worlds. As the first full-scale test of the interlink bridge began, the energy flowed seamlessly between human machines and Aelorian crystal networks. Information traveled instantly, calculations completed in moments, and devices responded intuitively to one another. Ethan watched in wonder as the bridge came alive, pulsing with light and energy, a living testament to human creativity guided by alien brilliance. Suddenly, a warning flashed on Ethan's console, an unexpected anomaly in the system. He froze, fearing the bridge might fail or destabilize. But Lyra remained calm, her hands glowing faintly as she adjusted the crystalline resonance patterns. The anomaly resolved and the bridge stabilized, stronger and more efficient than before. Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him. They had done it. They had created something that would change the galaxy forever. News of the successful prototype spread quickly. Humans and Aelorians alike marveled at the achievement. Scientists, engineers, and explorers from both species came to witness the interlink bridge in action. Collaborative projects began, sharing knowledge, technology, and culture in ways never before possible. The bridge became a symbol of what could be achieved when humans dared to dream and had the courage to act. For Ethan, the personal triumph was immense. He had taken a dream from an alien diary and turned it into reality, proving that humans could achieve greatness when driven by curiosity, intelligence, and determination. Lyra remained by his side, her admiration and friendship a constant presence. Together they had accomplished something extraordinary, and together they would continue to explore the limitless possibilities of the galaxy. As the bridge pulsed with light, connecting worlds in ways never imagined, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought him here. It had begun with curiosity, a single moment of discovery and a willingness to dream. It had required courage, ingenuity, and persistence in the face of uncertainty and risk. And now, it had transformed not only technology but the very perception of what humans could achieve. Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing with quiet pride. "You have done something incredible, Ethan," she said. "You have not only understood my dream, you have made it real. Together we have changed the galaxy." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of their accomplishment. "We did it together," he said. "Human and Aelorian, dreaming and building as one." The stars of Zephyria stretched endlessly beyond the observation deck, a vast canvas of possibility. Ethan knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, discoveries, and adventures. but he felt ready. He had proven to himself, to Lyra, and to the galaxy that humans were capable of greatness, that they could reach beyond their limits, and that dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, could become reality. And as he looked at the glowing bridge, pulsing with life and energy, Ethan felt a profound sense of connection, not just to Lyra, but to humanity, to the galaxy, and to the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Together they had achieved something extraordinary. Together, they would continue to explore, to invent, and to dream. And somewhere, in the infinite expanse of space, Lyra's diary pulsed softly, as if